Aloha, empowered entrepreneur. And today I want to talk about getting word of mouth referrals from clients. Getting word of mouth referrals from clients, obviously very important. You can grow your business a lot with referrals. I've have an entire system around how to do that, but I'm going to give you some really good information here that you can apply in your business today to get word of mouth referrals from clients. So let's dive right in here. The first thing to consider is are the products or services themselves. So, do you have consistent, high quality products or services? And one of the ways that I like to assess this from a referral perspective, because one of the things that's going to make somebody refer to you is the uniqueness of what it is that you have or that you offer, that you provide, that you solve. And so there are three questions that I like to consider when we look at products or services, and that is, what do your customers think they need that they can't get anywhere else? What do your customers think they need that they can't get anywhere else? Not necessarily what they need, but what do they think they need that they can't actually get somewhere else? And then, where is your customer stuck? So in the process of getting their result, where are they stuck? And then how can you explain that they failed at getting the result because they didn't have what you offer? So if you take your offer, if you take what your product or service is, and it's something that they think they need, they can't get it from anywhere else, and it helps them get unstuck from where they're stuck right in that moment. Okay. And then it's something that you can use to say, hey, the reason why the other things that you had or didn't work is because you didn't have this. Then that product or service is going to be something that people are going to want to talk about and share and get word of mouth referrals from, because other people then that are stuck at the same point wanting the same result will ultimately want the same solution. And if you're the only place that they can get it, then they have to basically come to you, right? So that's actually the next topic here is, if only you can provide it. So if you're the only one that can actually get them the thing that they need, then that's going to set you up for referrals, because people will then think, well, hey, the only person who can do this is this person. And so instead of asking for referrals directly, you can actually begin to ensure that your customers know that you're the only one who can provide what it is that you do. And basically, that's an aspect of entering the customer's mind so that they think of you as the solution. And then what you do is what your customer you tie that together with what your customer would need to hear to think of you. Okay? So if your customer is like, okay, the only person who can get, so let's say for me, I do astrology for entrepreneurs. Okay, one of the things I do is I leverage astrology to help entrepreneurs grow a business. I really don't know anyone else doing it. And if you're like, "Oh, I know this kind of astrologer or that kind." No, no. I actually, what sets me apart is I can actually help people get unstuck, not just tell you that you're stuck in this area. There's things that I can do within everything that I have to be able to get you unstuck. And so if somebody's like, hey, so then you tie it together with something that the customer would need to hear. So if somebody hears, hey, I'm trying to build a business, but for some reason, yeah, I'm getting on the phone. Like, here's one example: getting on the phone with potential clients, but the clients, I'm just not able to get them to buy. I'm like, well, somebody might want to talk to me, because what I actually can do is figure out what's going on that's prompting your particular clients to not want to buy from you, your particular leads to not want to turn into high paying clients. And doing that in a way that's astrological, that in a way that's looking at the cycles, doing that in a way that brings in energy and helps you get unstuck, right? So I'm like, hey, if you hear of somebody who's saying, for some reason, I have all these leads and I just can't seem to close them, think, here's why this is unique. Because it's not just a closing framework. What I have is not just a closing framework, it actually taps into the uniqueness of the person based on their astrological chart. They're probably just closing in the wrong way. If they're using a bunch of different closing frameworks, but they don't factor in the energy of their chart, they're probably just closing the wrong way. So you see, it immediately gets people to think, okay, if somebody needs help closing, then okay, Tom's an option. And then it's like, okay, well, what makes Tom unique? Why is he the only person who can do it? It's because he actually helps craft, I actually help craft a closing methodology that's unique to the individual, right? It's unique to you because it's based on your astrological chart. Okay. So another way you can get people talking about you and referring people to you is actually just by having a referral program. Seems pretty obvious. So a referral program, an affiliate program, an incentive program. Check with legal counsel for any disclosure requirements, right? So I'm not a lawyer. I'm just saying, referral programs and incentive programs can be beneficial to help people begin to refer people to you, right? You can incentivize them. Just check with the legality and all that with your counsel. Another way to get people to send people to you is to make it easy. So I actually prefer because I'll do a lot of one-on-one work, and I prefer group messages where I actually give my customers a structure of what to send so that they can still send me a referral that's easy and unique at the same time. And so it's a framework that basically will speed up the sale because of how they introduce me and how they introduce me to their lead. And it also isn't just a form like a form message. So it still is unique to the person that they're sending to me. So it doesn't look like that they're referring a bunch of people, right? Even though they might be. And so you want to make it super easy for people to be able to refer people to you. And then if you're using an online affiliate program, I actually like to use coupon codes as opposed to referral links. So I prefer coupon codes because it's more likely that it will be tracked, right? So if the person who's referring, if your customer is giving someone else a coupon code that's tied to your customer as the affiliate, the person they're giving the coupon code is more likely to use it, especially if they don't have another way to get a coupon code, right? So I find that giving out a coupon code because it's also easier to do from an auditory perspective, from just speaking. Hey, enter this code at checkout. Da da da. Cool, right? So it's a way easier. Another way you can get referrals is to show appreciation. So showing appreciation for the referrals that are coming in from your customers, and doing something for the customer that generated the referral. It could be a thank you gift, a free product or service, um, something. Ideally, it's not something that you would require them to spend money on back to you, though, right? So it's hey, here's a discount off your next purchase. I mean, that may work if the client is regularly buying stuff. But I actually like I like things that don't require if they're a thank you gift, I like them not to require a purchase. It's just something that's going to add value to your customer. It's going to prompt them perhaps to send you more people, et cetera, et cetera. Um, and it kind of ties into incentives. So again, check with legal counsel on what you can or can't do there. Online testimonials is another great way. So to get people to talk about you, whether it's reviews, right? So review sites, taking testimonials that you've gotten that were not incentivized, and sharing them in social media posts. And what I do is make those testimonials specific. So I have a set of questions that I like to ask about somebody's unique experience so that others can connect. Because here's the thing with testimonials, they got to be specific, that give a tangible result, and the the variety of them is going to help refine how the person how somebody sees if it's for them or not. Each piece of information you get becomes another filter. So for example, if I was on a site where they had all these video testimonials galore, like every I mean just every type of person you could imagine. And one of the things they did was they put the city and state or city and country that the person was from underneath the testimonial. The moment they did that, though, it effectively requires, like, a person who's just visiting that testimonial site is going to want to find a city and state or city and country that matches them. And then if the person in the testimonial is someone that they can't relate to, right? So let's say a single guy in college versus a mother of twins, who's graduated college, right? So somebody maybe a mother who's in her late 30s that, and so let's say somebody goes to that website and they see a city and state. Let's say they see um Seattle, Washington. Okay, fine. So I see Seattle, Washington, and then and if the person is, let's say, a college guy, right, and is just maybe 20, who goes to, and he's like, oh, there's one testimony here, Seattle, Washington, and then it's a 35-year-old or 38-year-old woman of twins. He's like, oh, like he matched on the city and state, but it didn't match on the person, and the testimonial can be counterproductive. So, what I like to do is explain a bit about the person so that the different people that fit those criteria within that avatar can relate. Now, here's the thing. The criteria that I'm using is generally only the things that actually make a difference, the things that matter for the avatar. So, if what I'm doing is going to work for men or women, right? Or whatever the case may be, it's like I'm not necessarily going to say, hey, so and so is a man who da 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 da. No, I don't really need to say that because they can relate to some of the things that are that are captured in what makes that a unique testimonial, right? So the examples used the same thing, right? So if every testimonial, like let's say you have a fitness program, and every testimonial starts out with, "My gosh, I've tried every other fitness program, I was, fit for a while, and then I lost my fitness, and then I joined this program, and now I'm fit again." If every testimonial was like that, the person's gonna think, "Okay, have I done all these other fitness programs? And was I ever fit?" Right? So this person was fit for a while, and then not and no longer fit, and then they get this program, and they get back to where they were before. But if the person listening to that testimonial was never actually fit in their mind, they're not going to be able to relate to. They're going to just go, well, that person was fit before. That must be why they're able to get fit again, right? But then if you have a person who's like, I have never been fit in my entire life, right? And this program got me fit. Now somebody who's never been fit in their entire life can relate to it, right? So it's important, the specificity, but also keeping in mind the way that the person connects directly. People tend not to generalize. People tend not to go, well, if there's one person who did it no matter the circumstances, I can do it. People tend not to think that way. So when you're marketing, you got to really like dive into what are those things being conveyed here. And then that's why there's lots of testimonials often, because you're conveying all the different parameters and the fact that there's one person somewhere somehow that you're going to be able to relate to. Okay. So like I saw a product that was done by a really good marketer. And I know this person's avatar is women. And all the testimonials were women. And I didn't mind the languaging that was geared toward women because I was like, okay, I can read a sales letter. I'm a copywriter too. Like I get it. All the testimonials were women. And then I immediately went and I'm like, you know what? If all the testimonials are women, maybe I better not buy this. I actually was like, okay, maybe there's something in here that's specifically for and it probably wasn't, but it actually I caught myself doing the same thing, and I know about this process, right? And so I'm like, okay, maybe I better not. Maybe there's something else here. So testimonials pretty important, but they can bring lots of people to you. It's because they're always people are generally looking for what's that thing that makes that other person different that got them to the result that's different from them. And it's like, oh well, that person was born with, like, even the more um devastating stories like, oh, that person was born, poor and they were homeless. And like, well, and it's interesting because it's marketers, we got to realize that if you tell somebody, hey, some broke homeless guy became your client and is now a millionaire, not only does that sound exaggerated, even if it's true, it actually can make the person who's listening, if they do believe the story, they may go, well, the reason why that guy was successful was because he was once homeless. And they'll discount themselves, right? So it's like it's not the extreme of the story that matters, it's the relatability of the story. Okay, so I spent quite a bit of time on this. This is going to be an entire video just talking about, testimonials. Um, on and just being able to do this. But this is one key way to get referrals. Another way is networking. So attending network events, joining local business organizations, participating in community events. And what you want to do here is you want to be ready to answer what do you do with a statement that speaks directly to your ideal customer. So I have a process, that I help my clients with to actually get them to a point where they have two answers to what do you do. One is an answer if the person you're talking to is your ideal client and you were able to figure that out already. And another answer is they may not be your ideal client or you're not sure if they're your ideal client. There's a different way to answer it. And because that will allow you to get closer to either finding out if they're your ideal client or getting them to effectively introduce you to somebody who is your ideal client. So there's a process I take clients through to be able to do that. So with networking, my question there is to you is to be able to be ready to answer what do you do with a way that speaks to your ideal client. And here I'll give you another tip to this. It's not that you actually tell people what you do. You actually give them an opportunity to ask you what it is that you do. And the way that you do that is after you've asked them a bunch of questions to better understand them, you can ask them, what do you do? And it's counterintuitive to put that question at the end, right? But that's what I like to do. I like to ask them more questions about them as a person, right? That person, their life situation, et cetera. And it's like, oh, well, what do you do for business? What is your business? What do you do? And pretty much everyone you ask that question to will answer it and then ask you. And so that's how I get someone to ask me, what do you do? That then allows me to respond, right? With those statements, depending on the information, right? Ideal scenario, I was asking them a bunch of questions. I got to understand more about who they are, whether they're my ideal client or not. Then I ask them what they do. They tell me. They ask me what I do. Now I can respond with either the one that, if they're my ideal client, that one, which moves them closer to a sale, or the one that if they're not my ideal client, the one that either brings me closer to figuring out if they actually are my ideal client or if they know people who are my ideal client. And not in a way where I'm just asking them, hey, do you know people who are my ideal client, right? It's all about the relationship building within networking. So a great way to get people to send people to you is to network, and that can be just from living your life, right? That can be from conferences, from travel, from actual business networking events, et cetera, et cetera. And then another way to get people to refer people to you is by following up, staying in touch with your customers, following up with them after your purchase or service. You can also use that as time to help them take the next step to getting their result. So you can, depending on who your customers, if your customers are phone people, maybe you do call them, check in. Most of the time, prefer to text. A lot of people, a lot of clients prefer to text. Texting them, to follow up, to see how their purchase went, to see how, depending on what your product or service is, and then if they need help with anything, right? Oh, do you need help? Either getting that result. How's that result going? And then if they're stuck getting that result, you can help them get to that result to put what it is that you have into practice, right? Or if they got that result and now they're stuck on the next thing, right? You could then help them take the next step. And you can do that by, if you are texting at this point, you could do that then by scheduling a call. Okay. And then on that call, in addition to helping them, You can also remind them of who would be an ideal customer for you, or remind them of the types of problems that you run into. Like usually somebody will bring up something. It's like, oh, it's this same kind of problem I've heard again and again and again. It's what my clients bring to me. So if they share it, I might just tell a story. I might just go into, yeah, another client had the exact same thing, and here's what I did to help that client. Here's what I think we could do for you. Or here's what, and sometimes it's just like, hey, for that client, it's like, hey, there's a there, or for that problem, yeah, I had a client with that problem. Here's something basic, or here's something that, go do this. If this fixes the problem, great. If it does, and so like you don't owe me anything for it. Just go do it. If it's more complex than that of a solution, let's hop on a call. We'll figure out some sort of engagement we could do. I could help you further. And I give them something that generally does help, right? And it's just and it just helps them there, and it wows them out. Okay. And so you can use that to begin to just then remind them. It's like, oh yeah, like I mean, because they might have this problem and they're like, I've been stuck with this problem for so long, and you're like, that problem? I'm like, oh man, like, I help people all the time with that problem, especially if they're stuck at this point and you give them a specific point. And they're like, oh my God, that's where I'm stuck. It's like, oh, well, yeah, let's just hop on a call and talk about it. And so then they actually, then if anybody else has that problem, it's like, oh man, like, if you know anybody else who has the same exact problem, yeah, send them my way. For example, it's like, because they generally do. And so these are a couple different, a bunch of different ways that you can begin to get people to send people to you. And I do have a whole program called Your Referral Equation. You can get it at referralequation.com, where we go over using referral hooks, which is entering into your customer's mind, getting them to refer you. I do have a 7-step phone sales method, and which taps into a bit of your uniqueness and also the client situation. And it actually has a couple of two power tips within that. Is it brings your client onto the same side as you. It brings your potential client, your lead, so that you're not doing tug of war with a client on the phone. It actually moves them onto the same side. And then what's on the other side is, well, that's actually the secret. So that the two of you are doing tug of war together, um, with a different thing a different villain, if you will, on the other side of that. And then there's a way to speed up converting a cold lead to a high paying client through messaging. There's also a way that I like to do to effectively close. There's two problems that people have with closing. One is getting the person to say yes, and the other one is basically getting them to want to buy in the first place. And I flip them both on their head, and basically they buy as a result of not buying. And in order to get into that, well, I get into that in a lot more detail in the program. And then how to get effective testimonials, how to get your customers to think of you as the only solution, and much more. So if that's something, if you want more referrals in your business, check out referralequation.com, and you can get your copy of the program today. If you do have any questions or comments about this, please put them below. If you like this video and would like to see more like it, please subscribe. And as always, aloha, hui ho. I'll talk with you again soon. Take care.